actually have an enforcement mechanism such as sanctions to ensure, firstly, that there is an incentive for countries to comply, and secondly, that it's a deterrent for other countries to not create nuclear weapons or go against the wishes of the International Atomic Energy. The only clause that the United States is against in this resolution is clause 4, because we believe that certain countries should be allowed to maintain nuclear weapons in the interest of deterrent factors in the case that rogue states get it. Mr. President, I have a remark.
Thank you, Honourable Member for the United States. Are there any points of information for the Honourable Member for the United States? Honourable Member for Iran, you will be recognised. Please stand and give your point of information.
Honourable Member for the United States. Effectively, these sanctions only really serve as deterrents to peaceful developments of nuclear technology. Countries such as Iran don't serve as any deterrents whatsoever as to the development of nuclear weapons in countries such as the USA.
Thank you, Member, for your question. The United States believes that for too long we haven't actually had proper enforcement mechanisms to ensure that the countries comply with the clauses of the Non-Proliferation Treaty and with what the International Atomic Energy Agency wishes to carry out. We believe that sanctions are necessary, but only in certain circumstances. So we're not proposing that we put sanctions on any country. We're proposing we only put them on certain countries that don't comply. So if countries do comply with what the International Atomic Energy Agency is trying to do, then they shouldn't have to worry about sanctions.
Okay, so after the senators made their speech, and every speaker except the proposer, you'll be asked if you're open to points of information. So you've just seen a point of information, which is a question from another member nation. You can say, yes, Mr. President, I'm open to 1. You can say open to 2. You can say I'm open to points of information at your discretion, which means as many as you think are necessary. Or you can say no, I'm not open to points of information. It's up to you. So as you can see, a point of information is phrased as a question, and then the member nation who made the speech is allowed to respond to that question. So that's all that's allowed. Simple question and response. There's no debate across the floor back and forth. Okay?
Thank you, Honourable Member for Iran. Are there any further points of information for the Honourable Member? Seeing none, thank you, Honourable Member for the United States of America. You may receive. We will now move to Speaker. Sorry, Honourable Member for the United States. How do you wish to yield the floor? That yield is in order.
Okay. So yielding the floor, you'll see a much better example of it later. But it's basically saying who gets to speak after you. After the second, the floor will always go back to the President. But I might actually hold my description of this until we see a much better example of it yield later on.
We will now move to a speaker who is on the speakers list speaking against the resolution, and that is the Honourable Member for Pakistan. You'll be recognised.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honourable members of the Security Council, Pakistan is a peace-loving nation. We would like to move towards the elimination of nuclear weapons. However, member states, we believe that it's important to recognise the reality of geopolitics in the world today. Nuclear weapons exist, and they exist in great quantities in a number of Pakistan's enemies. Therefore, we believe it is vital for the security of the Pakistani people that we retain the use of nuclear weapons, a moderate quantity, so as that we are protected from our enemies in the region. Pakistan has a problem with a number of the clauses in this resolution. In particular, Clause 1 asks for compulsory signing up to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty.
Pakistan, please come to this concluding remarks.
This goes against the fundamental principles of the United Nations. And as such, we believe this resolution not only is unwarranted in this situation today, but is also against the fundamentals of what the United Nations is about.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Pakistan. Are you open to points of information?
No.
That is in order. How do you wish to yield the floor?
I wish to yield to the Honourable Member for Iran.
That yield is in order.
Okay, so you've just seen a much better example of a yield. So yielding is when you say who's going to speak after you. And it must be someone who's on your side, so either for with you or against with you, if that makes sense, right? You want your side to dominate the debate. So after you've spoken, look up the speakers list, see who else is on there, and see if you you want to yield to them. That stops it going back to the floor side, so it's a really good strategic move to use. But you can only yield to someone if they're on the speakers list, otherwise you can't yield to them. And one more thing is that there can only be 2 yields in a row. After that, it will go back to the president. And one more thing. No, I forgot. Okay.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Pakistan. The Honourable Member for Iran, you have been recognised.
Mr. President, this resolution impinges upon a number of parts of developing nations' sovereignty, and in particular we take severe issues with clauses 3 and 2A, which state that the United Nations can declare economic sanctions upon countries that don't provide for the provisions in clause 2. And also, it calls for the IAEA to be given powers to carry out surprise inspections of nuclear facilities to ensure that parties and nuclear disarmament treaties are acting in accordance with the agreement's rules and conditions. Now, as we said before, we believe this is totally unfair and it totally infringes on our right to sovereign privacy. And it also infringes upon our right to develop peaceful nuclear technologies, of which Iran and the MF of Pakistan are already doing, pursuant to Chapter 6 of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. As well, Pakistan has already said, which I'd like to reiterate, it's important to recognise the scope of geopolitics today. Our main conflict enemy in the world is Israel. Our main conflict enemy, Israel, has nuclear weapons, and we believe it is our right to have them for counter-deterrence. And that is why tonight we will be voting against this resolution.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Iran. Are you including points of information?
No.
How do you wish to yield the floor?
I wish to yield the floor back to you.
That yield is in order. You may resume your seat. At this point, we will be entertaining an amendment that has been sent to the Chair, and those are amendments that have been proposed by Honourable Member of the United States. Could I invite the Honourable Member of the United States to stand and read her amendment to the Security Council?
Okay, so debate will continue sort of back and forth, speed to point of information yield, speed to point of information yield, speed to point of information yield, etc. The thing that breaks that up is amendments. So an amendment is when you take part of a resolution and you change it. You could delete one of the clauses, you could add in a new clause, or you could change a clause that's already written, and we'll talk about how to do that later. So basically, if you're, like the member of the United States has said, that she is in support of this resolution except for clause 4. So I'm imagining that her amendment would be to delete clause 4, and if that amendment is passed, she can then fully support the resolution. So you want to be passing these resolutions, and you want to be changing them enough so that you can all support them. So I'll let her read her amendment.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Could you please read your amendment to clause 4?
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment to clause 4, meaning that clause 4 is amended so it reads as follows. Aims for the removal of all nuclear weapons and related infrastructure by all member nations except for the 500 members of the Security Council by 2010.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Thanks.
Okay, so once the amendment has been entertained by the Chair, whoever's proposed the amendment will read out in the Chamber. Then the Chamber is going to take a vote on whether or not they want to debate the amendment.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Thanks for resume your seat. We will now be moving to a procedural vote on whether or not to discuss the amendment. As it is a procedural vote, no abstentions are allowed. So all member nations wishing to vote to discuss this amendment, please raise your placards now. And all member nations voting not to discuss this amendment, please raise your placards now. With 3 votes for and 2 votes against, we will be moving to a discussion on the amendment. As such, the current speakers list is halted, and a new speakers list will be drawn up on the amendment.
Okay, so as Mark's just said, once we go to discussing an amendment, we stop where we are on the speakers list and we start a new one. So you can send us another note saying we wish to speak for the amendment or we wish to speak against the amendment. And the same thing happens, but only on the specific amendment, not on the whole resolution. Okay, so Mark also said that it's a procedural vote, which means you can't abstain from voting. Basically, there are 3